Welcome to the Total Lunar Eclipse in Virgo through the lens of human design. My name is Brenna. You may or may not know that at this point, and I am a human design reader of 9 years and also a practicing astrologer. And one of the things that I love to do, especially for those who are learning human design, is to teach you about HD through the lens of astrology. If you are already familiar with astrology or just looking to grow in your knowledge of human design a little bit more deeply by giving you practical, logical, applicable tips in real time using the transits as our guide. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 6 gate placements that are ruled by Virgo in human design by showing you a human design body graph for the time of the full moon total lunar eclipse in Virgo here on the East Coast. I am an East Coast girly, so I use New York City as our basis, and then walk you through the other 5 gate placements that are ruled by Virgo using the Rave Mandala as well. And you'll see an example of what a Rave Mandala is in a little bit, so let's get into it. So for us, the total lunar eclipse in Virgo is happening at 2:54 a.m. on March 14th Eastern Standard Time. Again, I'm an East Coast person, so I'm going to use the East Coast as our guide. It's going to happen, as you know, 3 hours if you live in LA or that side of the world. It'll be the very last minutes of the 13th. So what I'm looking at as a human design reader is the specific gate placement that our moon sign is in. And when you're scrolling through here or read a human design transit chart, you're going to want to look at the personality side and then look at the icon for the planet or the celestial body, the planetary placement, so on and so forth, that you are referencing. So we can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th rectangle down is our moon sign in gate 6 in human design, which is known as the gate of friction. Now, a couple things I want to say to just kind of ground us in what a total lunar eclipse does for us, and what you'll hear a lot of people do, but what I try to actively not do is the fear mongering, right? You'll hear the words fated and karmic. And while those things are true by definition, right, most people in the world are not regulated enough. Their nervous system is not regulated enough to hear those words without becoming immediately concerned or fearful. A lot of what this full moon lunar eclipse is supposed to be teaching us, this total lunar eclipse, I should say, is how to ground, to stop being nervous, to stop exacerbating the worries. Our Virgo, and a lot of Virgos that I know have a nervous stomach, right? It's like those things that just bother your gut. Getting grounded when you feel a lot of worry is an example of how you can kind of fight the urge to get overly anxious, to be all consumed by what isn't working in the world. And I see a lot of people that I've spoken with through lives over the course of the last couple of weeks that have really been in this anxious spiral. And something that I always, teeter the line with as a practitioner myself and somebody who really values and takes pride in the work that I do with helping people, is making sure that if someone tells me that they're not up for it, they're not up for the fight of getting out of that worry warding, getting out of their anxiety, that I can't push them out of it, right? A lot of those of you who are on my email list have seen me say that we can't outsmart people of the lessons that they're supposed to learn, which is exceptionally true during where our sun is right now, which is in gate 36, the top quadrant here, the gate of crises, right? It's like we can see crises and we can know that they're happening, but what happens and what's helpful, and I usually use my crystals on live as an example, is when we look at them outside of ourselves, right? Say, I know this feeling is all consuming and this is kind of like the wham of psychic information that I'm getting. But when I just take a beat to look at it outside of myself, what is this nugget that I'm actually experiencing? And what is it that I can do, that I can choose to pivot and focus on, that's going to make the situation better? And I know this from experience. For those of you who may be listening to this and being like, well, that's easy for you to say. You seem like you're very regulated. You have this, you have that, right? It's because I know what it's like to live in that anxious spiral, to be incredibly anxious about what's not working and to get myself worked up into that lather. And it didn't do anything for me. A lot of what I say in regards to that is for myself is that I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was not handed the life that I have on a silver platter, but I did what I had to do to work my way out of that. So if you guys have any questions about that lore, as a manifesting generator, I can tell you about that another time. But really with these eclipses, it's not meant to totally panic about being, fated, karmic, all these karmic endings, but really looking at it from the perspective of what am I not willing to tolerate anymore? When people try to bring me into their emotional crises, their whirlwind, their tornado of downward spiral energy, how can I observe what's actually happening and understand what role I'm comfortable playing in this dynamic? And maybe it's that I choose to remove, or at least having a role at all with people, places, and things that bring me into that anxious lather. The specific gate placement that we have this total lunar eclipse in is gate 6 in human design again. Virgo gate placement, gate of friction. It's causing friction, having healthy debate, friction and uncomfortability that kind of shocks us or changes us to doing something, to beginning another action. As you know from my previous, if you watch my previous full moon or new moon videos, I always say that the full moons are a time to release, to get out of our own way. What are the things that aren't working anymore, and how can we get more aligned by making room for the things that are new and exciting? But if you are overly afraid of the friction of letting people, places, and things go, you are only keeping that energy in the place of the things that you are actually trying to manifest. So we have to be okay with letting things go. I have 5 planets in Scorpio. I've gotten very familiar with this over time. I always say that I'm the person that'll hold your hair back as you're purging out all of this stuff, right? Metaphorically, I should say, right? I'll bring you to it, but I'll lead you through it. Because that friction and that discomfort of standing up for yourself and setting a boundary with other people is going to be much more comfortable than forcing yourself to take action. Now, something that I'd be remiss to not mention is that every gate in human design has a different profile line after it. So you'll see here that we have a decimal place after that, 6.2, gate of friction in the line of the Hermit. So what also can happen here is that if you're somebody that just decides you're no longer willing to tolerate certain behavior anymore, maybe you don't want to have to rush or impulsively say, I'm cutting you out, I'm never going to talk to you again. Read somebody the riot act or not say anything at all and just have this big proclamation of I'm not dealing with you anymore, right? While that can be good, right? We need to look at the nuances of your placements. This isn't going to be true for everybody. The line of the Hermit encourages us to say, okay, I release this. I know I'm not going to tolerate it anymore, but I'm not going to go seek out an active argument with said person, place, or thing. I'm going to wait until that thing happens again to see if it even happens again, or if the universe has got my back in that way and kind of took care of things for me. But I'm going to hermit and say, I know that I set this intention to release this person. Should they come back into my life, I know that I have the firm grounding and boundaries to be able to repeat or to say with, few words, many words, you get to decide relative to you. Virgo's ruled by Mercury, which is a chatty planet after all. But I know that I can handle it when the situation comes back around again. So again, really looking at what is appropriate based on your nervous system, your current emotional availability to deal with things like that, or if the world just feels a little too heavy, anxiety inducing, things along those lines, that don't allow that to be as practical for some as it does for others right now. So again, know thyself, use that, take that with a grain of salt to know what's the friction that I'm willing to have. What are the things that I really need to look at to understand where I play a role in my own suffering? That is a really, really, really big thing right now. And to notice the words that you repeat. If we zoom out here and we take a snapshot of the energy type that this total lunar eclipse in Virgo would have, it's that of the manifester, passionate fire starter. I'm here to inform of what my intentions are. I declare that it's this. I'll decide what happens after that. It'd be remiss also for me not to mention that Aries, Mercury's in Aries at this point too. So it's rushing to say something, rushing to conquer. Gate 21, gate of the hunter and the huntress. People feeling a little competitive and maybe a little combative right now, and feeling very anxious about like, well, if I don't rush to get this thing done, somebody else is going to take my place. But in order for those things to truly have standing power in your life, not letting it be lost on you, you do have to let things go, people, places, and things to clear things out, declutter your life emotionally and literally to make more room for those things to come in. Before I get into the rest of the gate placements too, I wanted to talk about the fact that Saturn is also on top of our sun at the same time, even though they're not in the same gate placement. So gate 22 is a Pisces gate placement, as well as gate 36, which I mentioned, gate of crises, gate 22, gate of openness. Both of these gate placements teach us not to force ourselves to do things when we're not in the mood to do them. Where can we have more joy in our life? Where can we experience more fun? Where have we been getting in the way by playing the victim, by playing small? If you want to keep repeating all the things that have gone wrong or the way that people have wronged you over the course of your life, you could totally do that, but know that there is a limit to how far that actually gets you, where you're looking for revenge that may necessarily not come, right? The best revenge that you you can take at this point is to get better, is to do better, and not be a victim of the things that have happened to you in the past, right? And to still move forward. I'm not saying that's easy. It's very easy to put that into a bullet point at this moment, right? And trauma is a spectrum of things, different things that people deal with, but it's really pulling yourself up and saying, okay, at this point, maybe the radical act of me releasing that is me allowing myself to truly rest and get out of that thought loop and lay on my couch and enjoy a TV show. Maybe it is creating my first offering finally, because I feel like I've been silenced for so long by my inner child wounding that like I'm actually just going to start to speak even if my voice shakes, sort of thing. And again, really looking at where you feel comfortable, where you are able to take action to move forward, to get serious and disciplined. Saturn's the disciplinarian, about what your movements are moving forward, and use your discernment for that. Discernment is also going to be a big buzzword this whole rest of this year, essentially, because we have so many planetary placements that are in Aries and Pisces, planetary energy celestial bodies, that it's helping us to get serious about the murk, right? To when we dredge up the sand, what do we have left with when the waters finally clear a little bit? But it's like, the murkiness is happening alongside the clarity. So taking one step at a time and really just taking one day at a time to focus on, what can I do to get a little bit closer, move the needle forward today? So the last placements, or the last few things I wanted to share with you, is looking at the Rave Mandala in human design. So when we're studying, and a lot of when I teach and mentor people about how to read human design, I do mentorship. There's been a couple of you that emailed me about mentorship that filled out my contact form. Please check your spam during Mercury retrograde, because if we haven't officially emailed before, those things go to spam. But a couple of you recently have inquired about mentorship after I've mentioned the Rave Mandala. So if you already know astrology already, right, you know what the icons are, the little pictures, so to speak, for each of the zodiac signs. So if we're looking at Virgo, and I zoom up here, the signs move counterclockwise, you could see Libra up here, we can see that these are the gates that are ruled by Virgo. And then we have late degree Virgo placements, early degree Libra placements, that are ruled by gate 46 in human design. Gate 6 that I mentioned is second to last out of the 6 gate spread here that is ruled by Virgo. So starting about the 12th, when the moon is in Virgo, for us here in New York City, whenever the moon is in Virgo for you, depending on your place in the world, you're going to notice kind of this flow through these 6 gate placements as we move through the moon moves through the different degrees of Virgo, slowing down a lot of the tongue twisters happening with this Mercury retrograde. But we're starting off here with gate 59. So in order to think about where we're going, especially those of you who will join me in Patreon for our Total Lunar Eclipse manifestation circle, our little 30-minute power half hour, you guys are going to feel the spectrum of these emotions leading up to why you may want to set intentions for what you're releasing on the 14th. Okay, so just to put yourself in that mindset of what's kind of what you're being prepared for at this time. So gate 59 is all about our bond making. Certain words that I'm unsure if I'm able to say on this platform tied to that bond making in its most primal, carnal, reproductive sense, if you can read between the lines there, for how we bond with others. This time, right, especially because we have so much activation in Pisces, is really helping us get clearer on the bonds that we keep, the bonds that we have, and the people that we keep those bonds with, right? The company that we keep being the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So who are you looking to release during this time? Who are the people that make you feel good versus the people that just don't feel that great? And getting serious about being disciplined on deciding, do I need to have a conversation with this person, or is it okay if I have a conversation at a later date when they are in my presence again, or when they reach out again, and deciding how I'll figure out what that looks like at that time, if and when I'm presented with that opportunity. Then we move on to gate 40. A lot of you that I have a couple people that I'm mentoring right now, a couple manifesting generators specifically, that have gate 40 in their human design body graph, specifically gate 40 to 37, that channel, a channel of community. Gate 40 is the gate of aloneness. So it's this progression for on a gate 59 moon day, we're saying, oh, these are the people that I feel really comfortable with, or these are the people that I have to let go. We come over to gate 40, gate of aloneness, and it's like, wow, I let this person go. Now I feel alone, right? What am I going to do? Who's going to fill that void? What's going to happen, right? What's going to happen when I let this person go? What's going to happen when I block a parent or a friend or somebody I saw as a mentor, right? What does that look like? I feel that void. And giving yourself the temporary moment to be comfortable in the discomfort of knowing that there's those moments where, of course, we feel sadness for something someone we were optimistic about or we felt good about. But then after that comes gate 64, which is the last of all gate placements, gate of confusion, which is confusing to be named that in and of itself, but it's breaking through confusion in order to get clarity. Oh, when I sat through that little moment of uncertainty and I just let myself feel my feelings and I didn't question them. And even though it was hard, I knew I did the right thing. This is what it was all for. Now I understand, right? Then we move over to gate 47, gate of realizations, right? It's this ability to know, oh my gosh, okay. While I'm washing the dishes, I get a little bit of staring out the window, looking at the birds, walking, staring at a pond or water, what have you. Oh, now it's this instantaneous knowing, crown center, that I understand what the purpose of this was. I should say Ajna center. I understand what the purpose of this was, right? Could be through psychic downloads, spiritual downloads. Virgo is a very underrated spiritual sign because Virgos are very structured and organized. Virgo placements, Virgo dominant people structured about the way that they experience spirituality, right? I get a lot of Virgo placements, especially with gate 5 in my human design body graph and where Virgo sits in my natal chart. But that like structure, like details, like to learn in a step-by-step ABCD 1, 2, 3 sort of method, which is what makes us really good at connecting, being a 1, 3 profile. So if you're a 1, 3 and you're looking to mentor people, you may find that you have a lot of Virgo clients because we go in order most of the time. But yeah, so figuring out like, okay, I've had this aha moment, this revelation, this rationalization, this realization of why I went through that, getting even more clarity on the confusion and maybe, waiting out my emotional wave, so to speak, whether or not you have one, waiting out those emotions and staying very grounded. A huge tip, if you take nothing else away, during this time is how do you remain grounded when things outside of you feel chaotic? I had a beautiful tarot card reader. Her name is Amy and I adore her. But she was saying like, I feel like you're a pillar of calm kind of with all of this chaos going on around you. And I was like, yeah, that pretty much tracks how I feel most of the time. And it's as Pisces placements or for anyone else as a Pisces sun, you guys understand how all consuming that is. So from the outside, it may appear that I'm sitting on my couch, drinking a cup of coffee, staring at the wall, doing nothing, but it's because I feel every ounce of everything going, everything everywhere all at once, whatever, I forget if that was that exact movie title, but it's that all consuming feeling. And my mutable placements will also understand this too, Virgo included, of like, it's everything everywhere all at once. And I not only feel that every day is a Pisces. So, and a part of me with all this Pisces is like, welcome to my, my daily life, right? Welcome to my life. But we're all feeling that. So I have a lot of sympathy for people who aren't used to all of that water, all of that fire of Aries, right? That's kind of happening simultaneously, which is what ultimately is causing a little bit of this friction. So if you've been making good aligned decisions, right, and really critically thinking, critical thinking and Virgo, chef's kiss, hand in hand, really go well together for Virgo placements who get out of that, again, that detachment. Pick your favorite crystal, right, and look at it outside of you and say, well, when I really think objectively about what advice I would give a person, or friend or what have you, if they were in my situation, what would I do to resolve this friction, right? And if you've been good at confronting what is uncomfortable, all of these moments will feel easier for you. But if you've really had blinders on and are kicking and screaming about why what has happened isn't working and whose fault is it, even though, yes, it can be other people's fault, is it our fault because we spent a lot of time with people that were committed to misunderstanding us? Is it because we spent a lot of time spending, valuable energy wasted on what that we thought that person should or could have would have done if they had acted right, right? And what is that do for us actually, right? Why does that feel safe? I think a lot of this time And a lot of what I look to help facilitate people with as a mentor is like being okay with what, or not even okay, but acknowledging what happened. Again, that radical acceptance I've mentioned many times throughout my videos, and then saying, you know what, that's really not great that I had to go through that, right? I don't like that those were the set of circumstances, but I can't rewind and change what happened, but I can reframe what I do with my life in the future. And I only have this one life to live. So what am I going to do, even if it causes friction, to be able to move forward in my life in a way that actually is impactful for me? So just, the light little work that we can do during the total lunar eclipse. But I will leave you with that to really understand that for the next 6 months, from this eclipse to the next, we are in this potent time of really being able to change our lives around, no matter outside circumstances. So you can also think critically and read between the lines of what I mean in that regard as well, but really expanding your idea of what is possible and realizing how much power you actually do have over your own life and energy is an incredibly empowering place to be when you realize you're not as much of a victim of circumstance as you may feel, and that you may have a lot more power than you're willing to admit if you are willing to answer the call and take radical responsibility over your life. And you know where to find me in the comments if you have any questions. I will be hosting our normal 30-minute in Patreon manifestation release circle, more aptly apropos for the full moon. And I'm wishing you a very blessed total lunar eclipse. Be gentle with yourself and find ways to ground throughout this whole time. So thank you so much, and I will see you soon.